Okay, I'll have this dummy whispering in my ear.
That is creepy, Kent. That's I think it's amazing that you have it though. That's really
Well, as a photographer, I love the shot. Right? It's the sight line of the dummy and the receding, like it's very Ripley Scott, forced perspective, and the tree was just perfect, and like, yeah.
It's like the beginning of a Stephen King movie.
Damn. Yes, it is. It really is. Okay, we'll go with that one.
Nothing good could happen with that.
It's got some personality. So
we are live on YouTube, I believe.
Are we live on YouTube? Uh-oh. Can I share this on my YouTube channel? Do you know?
Yes, we will figure that out. You'll be able to do.
So no, but not live. But that's okay. Like nobody knows about me live on YouTube. I'm not a big star like you guys.
No, I just tweeted it out. So we are live on YouTube.
We are live on YouTube.
People are going to show up. It's another episode of Craft Brewed Agile. It's Todd and I here with Kent Beck.
Yeah, so excited.
And Kent,
hello.
Kent brought a friend.
I was just saying this is the creepiest photo I've ever taken. I was out walking along the Charles River, and there was this ventriloquist dummy sitting on a park bench and soaking wet, absolutely nobody around. Like clearly had been done on purpose, but there's like some backstory. There was some stuff that went before this shot. And Todd, as you were pointing out, there's some stuff that goes after this shot that goes really nicely in a Stephen King novel.
Yeah, it really seems that way. Like I'm going to be staring at it the entire time.
Thanks. I have other backgrounds.
Thanks, Kent. Guess I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight thinking that.
You're welcome. Yeah. Just, because we didn't have enough stress in our lives, I thought I'd throw in a little extra. How's the audio, by the way? You hearing me okay?
Yeah, you sound great. Yeah.
Okay, great.
So beginning of the show, guys, we talk about the beers that we're going to drink. I think plural for this one. Maybe we'll reload halfway through, but I'm going back, Todd, to Off Square Brewing. So this is a brewery that's really close to my house in Crown Point, Indiana. They make some amazing beers. This time, though, I'm going with the Long Day IPA. It has been a long day.
IPA, huh?
Really nice IPA. I love drinking these. So I'm gonna get this one poured. Todd, what have you selected for this conversation that we're gonna have with Mr. Beck?
So this is by Treehouse Brewing Company out of Charlton, Massachusetts. It's called 89. It's their Curiosity Series. It's a double IPA. My good friend Scott, who has been a long-lived software developer, gave this to me, and I thought, in the spirit of talking maybe some code or whatever we're going to get into, cheers to Scott for hooking me up with this delicious beer.
All right, and I'm going with the Fort Point Brewing Company, which is a San Francisco brewery, Kolsch style.
Oh, very nice.
So
I got introduced to Kolsch actually on an Alaskan cruise. So the Alaska Brewing Company makes a really nice Kolsch, and I ended up drinking it for a week. It's the first Kolsch I ever had and loved it. I'm jealous. That sounds wonderful. We're poured.
We're poured. Cheers, gentlemen.
Yeah, cheers. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Oh, that's good.
They all feel like Fridays, though, don't they?
So I have one German joke.
Please.
So this Bavarian, Kolsch is is native to Cologne, and it's served in these long, thin glasses.
Okay.
So Bavarian goes to Cologne, and he sits down and he orders a beer, and they bring him a glass of Kolsch, and he looks around and and he picks one up and he drinks it and he says, "Yes, I'll have one of these." Oh, man, that joke kills in Germany. In Germany, they drink the Stein with the. Never mind. If you have to explain it, it's already too late.
You're talking to two uncultured Midwestern hillbillies, Kent. It just went right past us.
I'm an East Coast hillbilly, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Okay. Well, I'm a California kid. So, but anyway, oh man, I thought that was going to be, it was just going to be such a lighthearted way to start. Now I'm digging out for the next hour. I'm going to be like, oh,
they already love you. You're fine. You're
everybody's laughing and thinking these Todd and Ryan idiot guys.
Actually, and for the first time, we've got a couple people on here. It looks like Sebastian is having a nice black IPA. Paul Moore, he's having a Modern Times Words of Radiance IPA. That's awesome.
Words of Radiance.
Joining us, guys. Very cool. And so,
okay. So should I log into the chat?
Yeah, but just mute the discussion because if the audio comes in. But yeah, if you want to see what they're saying, you can definitely hit the YouTube
I'm not sure that I do, but I mean,
we have 11, 10. All right, we got some people watching.
Hey.
I'll manage that part, Ken. If someone says something interesting, I'll make sure to bring it over to you.
I think my brother might be out there watching too. He's a big coder too, Kent.
But you know what they showed up for, Kent? I think they're all curious. What have you been thinking about lately? What have you been up to? Are you looking at, have you picked up PLO yet? You still playing No Limit? Are you writing another book? What have you been up to?
Well, I'm not playing any poker. I can tell you that. Oh my, I'm jonesing hard. And it's not even like sometimes like, okay, I can't play, I'm someplace I can't play, but I know that I'll be going someplace that I can play or whatever. And now it's just like, no, I could not fly to Vegas and get my poker fix. I can't fly. Like there's nowhere in the world.
You would think of all times when they would consider bringing back online poker, it would be right now.
I think this is the time to push for it.
I miss the days. I would come home, I would fire up Poker Stars. I was kind of a grinding, kind of break even, slightly positive EV gambler. So on a 1-2 no limit table, I could make maybe 20, 30 bucks a night, having a little fun, learning the game, getting the math going in my head. Loved it. But man, Black Friday showed up, can't play anymore.
Yeah. So I play live probably 3 nights a week.
Wow.
Did.
Did.
Will again, one presumes.
So a confession to make with poker.
Sorry?
I am the worst poker player. I am the guy that you guys would seek out and just be like, all we have to do is maybe say a couple words. This guy's going to get aggressive, go all in, and he's done. That's me. Like you guys would clear the floor with me. I know my limits.
Well, that's good. It's good.
Self-awareness is important, Todd.
I have been playing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I got a 49-inch 32:9 monitor. That was my stress purchase, and it's awesome. It is so wide. It's just like ridiculous, and I love it.
You get like a sunburn from it when you're
yeah. No. I recorded a keynote yesterday. Uh-oh. Ryan, are you live?
You're good. We're good.
Okay. Yeah, I had to put big black patches on either side of like just I opened up Keynote and I made a big black rectangle just so I wouldn't get the shiny dome stuff going on.
Nice.
Brian and I can both relate. We have that shiny dome issue ourselves.
I have a shiny dome, anti-shiny dome device on right now.
Well, I don't do that. What would you? So I would get. I'd have to make a guess.
Sure.
So I listen to a lot of funk.
Okay.
I kind of regulate my moods with music. So there's a lot of like Gregorian and Russian Orthodox chanting going on.
So I'm a huge fan of Gregorian chant. I love it.
And then a fair amount of James Brown.
That's a shift.
Stevie Ray Vaughan, I guess. Whatever. Mozart string quartets is in heavy. So yeah, it's a bunch of different things.
I used to actually, when I was writing code years ago, I would listen to Gregorian chant and program, and for some reason, it just kept me calm.
Oh yeah,
Amazing.
Yeah.
For the listeners out there, if you've never checked out Gregorian chant, you're in YouTube right now. After the show, type it in. There's probably 1,000 different great videos. Listen to about 10 minutes of it and tell me you don't feel more peaceful. I dare you.
See, I'm more of like a punk rock hardcore coder.
ACD
Cannot.
all the way.
You can't?
Have had pairs who insisted on metal. No chance.
No, it's I don't know why I can disappear with it. The other stuff, like if I listen to stuff that's calmer, it like I can't focus as much.
He gets angry listening to classical.
Ironically, so I played rugby for a while. Ironically, what I would do to calm myself down before I go on the rugby pitch is I'd be like singing in my head like Billy Joel songs or like stuff like that. So I code punk rock and hardcore, and I'm playing rugby, like, you know, singing Billy Joel and like Elton John songs in my head to stay calm.
Seems like every week you reveal just a little bit more about what's going on in that head of yours, Todd.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot going on in there. Or not going on. We're not really sure which one yet.
So Ken, I remember a conversation we had back in 2017. We were sitting in a probably one of the nicest hotels in Johannesburg, South Africa. And I asked you a question. You told me to give you a few years to answer it. And so I'm going to ask you again.
Oh,
right, so crap. I asked you,
Todd, I just for the record, I have no idea what's coming.
No, this one's not. It's not a bad question, but it's something that I think Todd was interested in too. And so I asked you, what is it really like at Facebook? Like, what's that experience like? What's the working there as a software engineer, leading engineering at one of the biggest social platforms, data collection platforms, analytics platforms, big data. I mean, it's the biggest of the biggest. And at the time you told me, hey, I just got out of there. I still have some agreements that I signed that I can't speak, but I think you're well past that. If you're cool with that, I've always been just endlessly fascinated. What's it like working with that much data, that much user interaction, and just what's some of the stuff that really stood out to you?
So let me go I'll go through some of the cool engineering stuff.
Yeah.
Is you just get used to working with really big numbers. And, somebody come in and say, well, maybe I need to gather 1,000 data points. And you're like, per second? Like, no. I just need 1,000. I mean, like, no, 1,000 per second. That would be a number that you would do. We didn't measure compute in like number of servers. We measured it in megawatts. How many megawatts of compute are we adding this year?
Wow.
And there were I was working on an API. There was on the Messenger backend, and there were a bunch of different endpoints in this API, and some of them were called trillions of times a day. And then we had one that was called 119 times in a day. And you're just like, oh, just shut that one off. Cause like, who cares? Just like, I don't even want to know what it's doing. Just doesn't matter.
So it just seems like the scale of it is just unfathomable. Until
everything is enormous. Yes, absolutely. If you want to run an A/B test, you just flip a switch, and as soon as you can flip it off, you have plenty of data.
That's crazy.
So,
with it being so at scale, I've got to ask the question, how did you test that? Right? Like, is that possible? Can you
No, not test in the red-green sense. Never. I remember my first ever code I pushed. I was carefully watching the IRC channel, and it said the push successfully went to 8,400 out of 8,500 servers. And I freaked out. I'm like, what's on the other 100 servers? And the person sitting next to me says, who knows? Doesn't seem to be screwing anything up, so we don't worry about it.
Wow.
And that that was my, like, I got over red and green in that moment, because there's no such thing as the software's working or it's not working. It's mostly working or it's mostly not working, and the not working is spreading or the not working isn't spreading. Those are your states. And you can't predict that before you go into production. Not at all.
Yeah, I can't imagine with that volume of transactions, like thinking of the computing power that would take to run a formidable test to see what it would take for 1 trillion people to hit an API, right? Like,
yes. So
it'd
one
be a
of the
waste
things
almost, really.
that was interesting about it is when we got, say, new networking equipment, you know, the specs would say it'll handle blah, blah, whatever. We just ignored that. The characterization lab, we didn't care if it did what the specs said it would do. What we cared about is whether we could turn it off. So if we put this in and we start it up, can we turn it off? Because the only way you really find out is in production. So it just takes a different approach to engineering. I mean, it feels more like biology. It's like, let's give it a higher dose of this stuff and then see what happens. Because cause and effect are just crazy. So that's on the engineering side. I mean, it was just like, it was heaven for an engineer. You had so many resources, you had so many opportunities. The ex-Facebookers talk about the bubble. Though while you're in, there's just constant criticism. You're taken. I was in a quilting store with my ex-wife, and the woman saw my Facebook shirt, and she just started giving me a bunch of crap about Messenger didn't work and blah blah blah, and like, you just have to take it. So there's a kind of a us and them. We're the good guys inside, and it takes a while for that to fade when you come out. Just as a defense mechanism, you have to jump to Facebook's defense while you're inside.
Well, it's got to be tricky working with one of the. It's got to be is it the most popular social platform today? I mean, TikTok's catching up. I mean, that's pretty popular.
TikTok is a pimple on Facebook's patootie.
Okay, I believe it. But I mean, that's got to be tricky. We do have some questions. Let's see. Apparently we froze for a second, but we're back. Todd, what position did you play in rugby?
I was tight head prop. Well, actually started out as loose head prop, and then I transferred over to tight head prop.
All right, so Todd, another.
It was
Todd,
a lot thicker than I
was a bigger guy then.
Yeah.
So cool. I mean, so this Facebook stuff, it sounds like it's just working at a scale that's pretty incomprehensible until you try it. Yeah. A lot of pro-development, a lot of fun stuff there. I mean, did you get to do XP inside the walls of Facebook?
Oh, hell no.
No.
Facebook had its own way of doing things. And if you came in and started preaching, they would just tune you out.
Wow.
But it was a very highly developed style. Like they developed the way they developed self-consciously. They knew that they were doing it. They couldn't explain why it worked, or they couldn't explain to you. They couldn't teach it to you out of context. But if you were in and you did something wrong, it was made very clear very quickly that it was wrong.
Cool. No, it sounds.
So it's interesting. If I can kind of pair that. So first of all, your XP book was like changed the way that I coded. Right now, I was just telling Ryan before we came on this, I'm like doing some Python stuff right now, and the first thing I did was write failing unit tests. Right against some empty methods, started writing failing unit tests. So to parlay it and use some XP language from your book, as in the way it worked in Facebook. You wrote about this whole notion of dispelling vulnerability. So it seems like there wasn't even the chance there. So in a lot of corporate environments, I'm sure you've been around a ton of them. Like that is something that you actively have to do because the forces are working against you, right? So if I can kind of read into what you're saying, those forces weren't there because it was just open. I'm sure they have like super smart people. Is that kind of what I'm reading? What you're saying? You don't have a choice because it's like in your face, right?
Yes, you would do stuff that you thought was perfectly fine, and just random stuff would blow up. And the engineering culture was great about that. Nobody was vilified. One time a boot camper checked in a configuration change and brought the entire site down. And nobody fussed at the boot camper. The boot camp is this 6-week beginning. Nobody fussed at the person who quote unquote made the mistake, because like, why, if a configuration change can bring the site down, then there's something wrong with the site.
That's cool. So
that part of it was very positive. So here's some negs. One of them is this word impact was really important. Every 6 months, you had to prove with numbers that you should still be at Facebook. And so you got, when I showed up, it was relatively easy to come up with those numbers, but as diminishing return sets in, it got harder and harder. And people would do the kind of, I called it the pie problem, where it was easier to make your slice bigger than to make the pie bigger at some point. And Facebook never really noticed that had happened and did anything about it. The rules were the rules, and we were successful because we were successful, and that's that. I mean, there's a kind of arrogance inside. The introduction of newsfeed is part of Facebook mythology, where newsfeed came out and all the users revolted and they were going to quit Facebook, and they used newsfeed, ironically, to spread the word of just how angry they were about newsfeed. And the lesson, the mythological lesson taken from that is that, yeah, we know better. So if people are complaining about something, yeah, as long as it makes sense to us. So when I see things like Facebook won't get rid of fake news or something like that, inside Facebook, that makes perfect sense. And as a citizen of the world, that makes no sense to me. But I can imagine what it would be like to be inside facing that. Like, oh, we're not going to run political ads. People, we can't stop people running political ads. Everybody throws up their hands. Oh, this is horrible. Well, hang on. At scale, how are you going to tell what's a political ad and what isn't? And we're talking about millions of ads a day that might be political and they might not. And there's consequences to getting it wrong. And so I can, from the inside, I can imagine, okay, yeah, like it's just not practical. But from the outside, they got to do something. They got to figure out something, because destroying democracy is not a big plus option as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, it's tough when the platform is that big, the influence is that big, and if it's wielded in a way that is anti-people, things tend to go sideways. I don't want to get too political. We may or may not be living the consequences of such things right now, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay,
it's
fair
possible.
But did that answer your question, Ryan?
From like an engineering perspective, to think about that though, like you built this whole ecosystem, and then like how you try to determine what's fake, and like, I mean, that's with as much stuff as being pumped into the system and being pumped out of the system, like that's an astronomical ask for, I mean, I think the computing power is probably what 5 times of what it takes to just put it in and bring it out. It's to understand whether it's fake or whether it's So that's some interesting insight from.
Sure. And do you want Facebook to be the arbiter of what's real and what's fake news?
Yeah.
Well, and if it isn't Facebook, then who is it? I mean, Facebook has become a quasi government that's orthogonal to national governments. And now things are going to get weird as because it has so much power. And now things are going to get weird as they figure out. And Google's the same way. I had a friend at Google once, and we were drinking one night, and kind of, honesty was creeping in. And I said, Google just has so much power from the DNS that you run to, like, they know absolutely everything that's going on. I said, I'm just glad that they don't abuse their power. And he said, yeah, until the day Google says, gin.
So I'll laugh at that one. I played gin as a kid. That's though it's interesting. I'd imagine, all of those whether it's Facebook, Google, Twitter, all the big socials with all the data. I mean, that stuff's being mined and searched, and I think that gin comment is kind of right, where someday that platform will be used against somebody in a horrible way, if it already hasn't, right? I mean, there's so much data. I mean, I would have to believe that, I've posted so many pictures of my kids. My kids are all under the age of 13. It's against the rules for them to have a Facebook account. But I would assume the second that my sons or daughter, when they create their Facebook account, they're going to have a bunch of stuff they're already tagged in. Like, I'm assuming that's already being built up, even though, and so I don't know, either I guess you embrace the lack of privacy and you enjoy the interactions, or you crawl under a rock and ignore it, right? I mean, are there options anymore?
I actually have a positive take on that, though, because I don't care. Like, I'm not doing anything, at least I don't think I am, that would get me in trouble, right? I'd like to think that, and then you watch like Jason Bourne or like some of these conspiracy shows, and they're just like, oh man, I'm gonna like wake up locked in the closet, sitting next to that weird thing behind Ken, right? Like, yeah.
The choice.
It's gonna happen to me tomorrow. It was really nice doing a Craft Brewed Agile with you guys for the last time.
Yeah, if we don't hear from you, Todd, we'll know what happened.
Yeah. Blink twice if you need help, Todd.
But I guess there is that positive aspect to it. I mean, you see, what's that show on Netflix? Black Mirror.
Black Mirror.
Yeah. Have you guys watched that?
Terrifying stuff.
Yeah.
Terrifying stuff. Like did you see the episode where the girl's social rank went up and down based off of how not just her but everybody around her, the interactions that were. I'm so glad that's not me, right? My buddy was just joking today. He was like, after this lifts, the people that are naturally socially awkward are really going to be in a mess. And I'm just like, how am I going to go back into the world? Like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm perfectly fine here, I think.
No, this is good. We're happy. This is good.
So I don't know where I was going with that. Took it all over.
Oh, you're good.
Okay, you don't have to go anywhere.
You don't have to go anywhere, bud. I'm just enjoying the long day IPA. Every time we talk, though, Kent, I always and I feel almost guilty about this, but I always bring up XP. So as a developer, and I still tinker in code. Todd's a Python guy. I have fun in Ruby every once in a while. For me, Ruby just makes sense. Like the way that they've structured things, the way that you can call out to object. I think it's a very beautiful language. Ruby or Python, I like it. The structure, like you had, too many spaces and the compiler gets mad, and it just it's a little restrictive for me. It's a little tight.
So
but
I will say that I am traditionally a C# guy. It's just right now I like to hop into a different language when I'm doing something because I don't professionally code all that much and just to challenge myself. So .NET peeps. Java.
Yeah.
Shout out to the .NET peeps.
.NET's nice. You know what? I loved Java back before it became someone else's toy that they kind of broke. I think Oracle has kind of wrecked Java. Sorry, Oracle. I guess you're not going to sponsor us, but
they are responding to other incentives.
But and Java is still arguably it's top 2, right? I mean, .NET, I'll tell you what, Microsoft beefing up the Azure platform probably made them on par with Java. Like the Azure stuff, taking databases local to cloud, ramping up nodes. I mean, it's pretty amazing. But what I was gonna started in Java, but man, there's something about Ruby shifting away from some of those heavier languages that just has been really pleasing. You know, Kent, I'm sure you're still tinkering in code, still probably writing code. Like, what's the language of choice today? Like, what if you get to pick, which compiler do you fire up? Which editor do you and which code or which language is it that you're suited to? Please say small talk.
So it like it literally is small talk.
Okay.
That's if I want to just, that's my comfort food. That's my my samosa. I had a strange upbringing. Indian food is my comfort food.
Nice.
Because my mother couldn't cook for diddly squat, and her friends were the wives of the first round of Indian engineers. So I would go to these people's houses and just get stuff full of Indian food. So that's my, anyway. So small talk is my samosa. That's I remember everything. So, you know, as you get older, your brain changes and in some ways deteriorates. So my short-term memory or construction of memory, like constructing long-term memories is harder for me now than it used to be. So I'll have some API, I'll look it up, I'll use it, I'll glance away, I'll need to use it again, I have to go look it up again. All that small talk stuff is burned in some deeper level, and I just don't even have to think about it. So
interesting you say that, Kent.
Yeah.
Just to interrupt you, because I think that's why, like, so that's how I am with C#, and I think that's why, like, now when I want to code something, I try to do something new, just to challenge that aspect of like that, like finding the like the library that makes sense, or like even something as simple as like string concatenation. It's slightly different, and it's slightly different enough that it could take a Googling if you haven't done it properly in an appropriate language. So I can relate.
Yep. Yeah. So the least anxiety producing environment for me is definitely small talk. So I have some JavaScript code up here for Excalidraw. Have you tried Excalidraw?
No.
It's a collaborative drawing program that produces something that looks more hand drawn than machine drawn. So
nice.
It was written by Christopher Chateau, who did React Native and still is in the belly of the Facebook beast. But I dove in there and started just tidying some of the code up. So
what
that's
IDE
JavaScript. Sorry?
What IDE are you using?
VS Code.
Yeah, me too.
I really like VS Code.
It's fantastic.
I can make it do stuff that I want to do.
Yeah.
At work, I use Ruby and Rails. It's the first time I've worked with Rails professionally at all. Turns out there's better ways to use Rails and not so better ways to use Rails. And our code is a mix. So, but, oh, by the way, so my employer is Gusto, does small business payroll and benefits. And everybody said, oh, you know, payroll domain to work in. You know, it only changes once a year, blah, blah, blah. Ha. Every morning there's a new variation of whatever program the Treasury Department rolled out yesterday. And the SBA says, no, don't compute it this way, compute it that way. And we have to have it in production in hours. It's crazy. But cheers to my team. They are crushing it. They're really stepping up. So that's been fun to watch. So yeah, some Ruby, some JavaScript, and that's kind of for most of my programming between those three languages in the last few years.
So we had a comment on Twitter. Someone said, we got to switch from playing poker over to chess, Kent. And what the people don't know is that I've got in front of me literally over 500 chess books. Above my head.
Oh, well, then you would definitely kick my butt.
And I played competitively up till about the age of 20. I love the game of chess. But I have my brain is wired a little differently, as I'm sure you guys have learned over the past couple of years. If I were to start playing chess seriously again, my brain kind of hooks into that stuff and I get lost. And so I have a great wife. I have 3 kids. I've got a career. If I dig in, if I let my brain kind of wrap itself around chess, you're going to lose me for like 3 years and bad things happen.
3 years, that's a lot.
At least it's hard to unhook it once it gets engaged. So I have to be very careful about. So hobbies, what I have found, like I like doing mechanical things. Like I'm not mechanically inclined. And so I like watching YouTube videos and assembling things and trying to keep it to like a hobby where there's an end position. Like once I've built it, it's complete. There's a sense of done. And then my brain, I think it's why I like Scrum. There is a done. We've defined it. We know what it is. And once we get there, my brain can kind of cut off and we can move to the next thing. But man, if I get into something that's more infinite, like there's an infinite number of chess games you can play. There's an infinite number of moves and the calculate. Bad times. I don't know. You guys ever feel like that?
I think it's a story of my life. not with games though. It's just like I don't know.
CrossFit, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's the only time I can really turn it off, right? Other than that, like, so I joke around a lot with people that if it was up to me and I'm on a development team, we don't have anybody guiding us with value, then I'm going to spend every single ounce and dollar of our budget refactoring to try to make everything as perfect as possible. Right. Like, and you're never in a state of perfect. Brian, you've seen that with some of the stuff I get obsessed with, and I'm just like, I obsess over it almost to the point of like I should have just gone with the first take.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so I think I don't spiral off permanently like that. I will definitely dive into a thing and not be able to let go, but then I'm on to the next thing.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, if you look at my career, I've done that over and over again, where I managed to leave whatever just before the money starts flowing in. That's my MO. That's my strategy. They say culture eats strategy that's my strategy anyway.
So my get rich quick scheme is to leave all the money on the table.
That's for someone else to pick up.
Yeah. Todd and I talk about this at least once a month where we're like, if only XP had won, how different would the profession or the industry of software development be?
We didn't have something that the people with money wanted.
Yeah.
There
you go. That. I don't think I've ever said it that succinctly.
So what I think though is interesting is the impactfulness of it, because I still go into places that are just starting with Scrum and there's XP books. And the curiosity about what it means to pair program or how, like, I know this sounds crazy, but some people aren't using CI yet, right? And they still reference it. And the boots on the ground, the people building the product that are infinitely curious about how to do things the best way and produce something with the highest quality, that's what they reference. So did it really? I wouldn't say it lost it. It might have won.
Well, and there's a resurgence. So there's this XP3, the reboot going on where there were definitely some things we got badly wrong, like not focusing sooner or not focusing ever really on diversity and inclusion. people on the autism spectrum don't pair program well. Some, right? Some people do, some people don't. But if you lay it out as a set of thou shalt, then there's just a whole bunch of people who are left out. There's some things not to compromise on, like short cycles are just shorter than long cycles. So, but there's a bunch of stuff we could have done better. And there's this interesting, so this is a scenario. I don't know about you. I do scenario planning where I'm not trying to figure out what's going to happen next. I try and figure out what are the 2-3 things that are likely to happen next, and then make sure I'm prepared for all of those. Maybe this is kind of poker thinking, right? The flesh card comes, if the flesh card doesn't come. But one of the possibilities is that that XP really does come roaring back, in a sense, because execution really does matter. It does make a difference. Not as much of a difference as a geek wished it did. There's still a whole bunch of variance that's involved. That, like, if you have a poor business idea perfectly executed, it's still a poor business idea. So, but there's this combination of the old guard who's been doing XP for 20 years, and they've whittled away all the crap and the dross and the things that didn't work so well, and they have tons of confidence in the core set of beliefs that remain. And there's a group of the next generation that sort of picked it up a year, 2-3 years ago, and they're saying, well, why don't the tests run in under a second? This makes no sense. Oh, we have this build system. It takes 30 minutes to build the new, like, fuck that. Oh, can I?
You're fine.
Is this a cussing podcast?
You're fine. You're good.
Okay.
After, I mean, we're almost through beer 1. Load in here in a second. You're good.
Okay. So that combination of the old guard and the piss and vinegar next generation coming together, I think there is a scenario that says XP comes roaring back, because it really does solve problems that real people really do have.
So there are some questions in the chat, Kent, if you don't mind.
No, fire away.
So Paul out there, he's saying it's great to hear from Kent and what you've been up to. He met you at XP Immersion in 2000 and actually lost some money to you playing poker in an Agile conference a few years ago. So you have an admirer who you took some money off of. So well done. Let's see. What are your thoughts on mob programming? That's from Todd out in the chat.
I still haven't done it.
Okay.
This is one of these, and I know it's wrong for me not to just try it on something. And it scares the crap out of me.
It's interesting. So pairing is
so
safe.
Pairing is safe for me.
Yeah.
It's interesting because, like, I remember the first time I began pair programming. It's scary.
It is.
Yeah. It really is, because, like, I don't think that there is a software engineer on the planet that doesn't think, like, or doesn't like. So I was just telling my brother that I'm going to check in this this Python project to GitHub, and the first thing that went through my head is, man, it sucks. I don't want him to see it, right? Like, I mean, you have that feeling infinitely, and it really just takes a sense of vulnerability to sit down and there's two sides of that. Not only the person that's the pilot, but also like the other person that has to sit over their shoulder and be like, what about this, right? Like, what about doing it this way, right? Like, so I think there's really two aspects of it. So I think to your point, Kent, mob programming, I actually haven't done it either. But it's scary, especially if you're the one sitting there on a keyboard. Right?
I cannot imagine, but like, that's the point.
Yeah.
If the you can't imagine, if you hadn't written unit tests, you couldn't imagine life without a QA department.
Yeah.
And so that's why you just got to do stuff. Yeah. And this is one that I just need to dive in and do. And there's no good excuse. I had a great dinner with Woody's Wheel in Minneapolis. Like, I have all the resources I could possibly need to just give it a try and see what happens. And I just haven't done it. So
no shame. It was just a user question, or not a user. Why am I saying?
No, I'm deeply ashamed. Thank you very much. Yeah. You've ruined my weekend.
Let's go back to the guy that he won money off of. Okay. Let's make Kent feel good for the weekend.
Yeah. Apparently
with him and the creepy transquilic. Well, I don't even know how to say that word, with a doll behind him.
It's interesting though. Someone did point out in the chat that even pair programming, it can be really exhausting though, that they do actually.
Oh yeah.
And then can you imagine that at the scale of a mob? But yeah, I think there's, like you said, there's plenty of opportunities to try it. I'm sure that you'll jump into that someday. But pairing, I mean, when I was first starting out, like, I had some really great programming mentors. And so I was able to, like, XP was just, that's when I joined the company, it was, this is what thou shalt do. So I never learned the bad habits. It was, you will pair program, you will unit test, you will do test first development, you will believe these codes, you will work with values. I mean, it was all taught. But I'll tell you what, that first time I sat down to pair with someone, I mean, so many worries and fears and concerns went through my head. It was, what if they think I'm stupid? What if they realize they shouldn't have hired me? What if I have to go to Google to look up which method call, getting an instance of a calendar back in the early 2000s in Java was a nightmare. I'll have to get an instance of a Gregorian calendar.
But because goodness knows you might need Julian dates.
Yes. And because, that's going to happen, and so it's just terrifying. And then you realize what I like is I liken it to, I try to take these examples and get out of programming for a minute and show people that it's all human stuff. It's not tech. Because I remember being a kid thinking my parents have everything figured out. Like they just have life going and everything's smooth. And then you get to adulthood, like I'm 40 years old now. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't know what's going to happen next. They were making this up as they went along. And I kind of feel that way about pairing. It's like the person sitting next to you is equally scared. They're making up life as they go along. And once I realized that, I kind of calmed down and open, but it's that openness thing. It's the, maybe I'm wrong about something. Maybe I could learn something. And I think what we found through pair programming was, if you do not have that learner mindset, like if I can't sit down with you, Kent, or with you, Todd, and decide I'm going to learn through this and not just generate code, it's going to be a fail. But if I can embrace the learning opportunity and the outcome is better code because we both work together, it's going to be a great experience.
Well, and that's something that seniors need to learn, right? You keep how much code you produce, maybe not how many lines, but how much care. It's not your job to cover territory. It's your job to help the junior learn as much as possible.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Will result, but you have to rewire your head.
And that part's tricky.
Oh.
It's right. What does winning actually mean, and how does that work? Right. And that's tricky.
And also learn to listen to the junior, because if they are sitting with you and they say, well, what about doing it this way? It doesn't always necessarily mean that they're wrong.
Yeah. And
so, like, if you think about it, you could be, but I've been doing this for 15 years, but you could make that 30-line link statement that I can't understand, right? Like, and you could do it this way, because I just learned that at my last job, and that's a hard pill to swallow sometimes. That is pride, right? And that's why. So Ryan,
which is really a form of fear.
Yeah.
That's true. A lot of those things do kind of trickle back to what I've found. It's either fear or trust. Kind of one of the two.
Yep.
Pretty cool. That's weird how it's not the tech that we're so worried about.
Now you have to grow up as a human being. I hate that.
I know, and we can't even reference Toys R Us anymore and say we want to be Toys R Us kids because they're not here anymore. Remember the commercials from the 80s?
Where's the certification for that, Kent? Where's the certification for being a better person? I want to sell that one.
Yes, there you go.
Yeah. We're still Toys R Us kids.
Yeah. No, but it's funny. It's, you know, I think now it's a lot easier, but it's only because after 20 years of doing this, you kind of learn that, man, no one's got it figured out. We build teams because no one has it all figured out, and we're covering each other's sixes. We're filling in the gaps, and man, it just seems like life gets a little easier when you realize that. But sometimes it takes 20 years to get there, right? Or for some, maybe 30
or more.
Yeah, I'm 40
I'm
now.
considerably older than you gentlemen.
Yeah, we're working on it. We're trying to catch up. We want to get there.
Do you have to go? Let's see. You have to go out of the gravity well to do that, right?
It's a tough trick. It's actually not the age, Kent. It's the miles. Indiana Jones quote.
I used that quote the other day. It's a great one.
It's a great line from Raiders of the Lost Ark, and I actually used that line in a class recently. And one of the students, they threw their hand up and said, "I don't know what movie that's from," and I just get out.
Yeah, that's right. You don't deserve to learn what I'm about to teach.
When you have watched Raiders of the Lost Ark, you may come back and finish your 2-day Scrum class.
What a great series of movies.
Crystal Skull. Oof.
Indiana Jones.
You see the South Park episode related to their opinion on Crystal Skull?
No.
It's worth a watch.
Okay. I believe it. Like,
I'm not allowed to watch the Christmas episodes on South Park anymore because I had my wife watch one and it went terribly wrong.
You're not supposed to watch South Park with your wife, Todd.
Yeah,
That's just for us.
I learn something new every day, and most of the time I just have to keep relearning my same mistakes.
The same thing. And it was one of those moments where I know Kristen turned to me and she was like, "I married this guy." And I think she was like evaluating the last 20 years, and she's like, "Oh, okay, still good choice," but I made her think about it, you know. Oh man, where else can we go? So Gusto's the new company, right, Ken?
Gusto's the new company. Yes.
What are you up to there? Like, what's the role? What's the challenge? What's the mission? Like, what's keeping you?
I say that I am a programmer at large.
Okay.
So nobody reports to me.
Were you elected?
I was not elected. I was appointed.
Appointed. Okay.
But I did go through the Supreme Court
There you go.
nomination process, so I'm good. So as a company scales, or in our case, paddles really hard to stay in the same place. There are always challenges. What used to work then is not going to work now, is not going to work in the future. And there are some problems that are unique and different, and there's a whole bunch of stuff that's just like, oh, this. We don't have a way to help juniors learn faster. Okay, there's a handful of ways of doing that. You have to recognize that you need to do it, and then you have to set up one of those programs, and that's just the kind of thing where I'm going. It's easy for me to see the need, and relatively easy for me to see what to do to get started. So I go around and do that. I have lots of difficult conversations, which is not my favorite thing to do, but there you have it. People upset about this and that and whatever. And sometimes I say, yeah, that's really horrible. And sometimes I give them the dad talk and just say, yes, this is a thing and you have to get over it. I can understand you being upset. That is an understandable and explainable emotion, and it's not serving you.
It's funny. I have that conversation with my 7-year-old almost every day. I understand why you feel the way you feel. I understand why you did what you just did, and it will not serve you well going forward. Let's eliminate this.
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with our boys that are like obsessed with playing Fortnite with each other right now? Right?
It could be.
I'm sorry, everybody listening. We're just letting it happen. We're all locked in here. We gotta let the boys roll with it.
Yeah. You know, anyone who has kids under the age, I mean, any kids in the house, you know, Chris and I started with the best of intentions.
Sure.
Limit the boys' screen time.
Screen time, no sugar. Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
You're gonna be outside the whole time.
Yeah.
You know,
it snowed this morning, right? And so we're like, well, they're not going out. Oh, just play Fortnite. Just stop fighting with each other. It's okay. Your e-learning's done. You did great. You got A's. All right, go play. And then it's, you stole my loot and you stole my kill.
Yes, but there's no actual physical violence.
Exactly.
Which is a big step up from where it could be.
Because it just moves so fast. It just moves right on to the next thing. So they're just like, they start arguing and they're just like sucked right back in, you know?
And then my kids are playing with Todd's kids online. And it's just like, Dad, you know, Chase is playing. I'm like, cool, tell Todd. And it's just fun. But yeah, we started with the idea of it's going to be, we're going to make sure they read more. They do have to read like 20 pages a day. So they do that. But
okay.
And we are failing. I'm not up for Dad of the Year anymore, I don't think. Todd, have you lost it?
I don't know that I was, in nomination for it.
I think we canceled, along with a lot of other things. I think we canceled Dad of the Year, and we're just going to give it to all the dads whose kids are still breathing at the end of it.
That's generous.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
You know, it's funny. I mean, we keep dancing around the quarantine. Kent, what do you miss most? Like, what's the one thing where you're just like, this is what I want to do?
So I live alone.
Right.
And I haven't been physically within 6 feet of another human being for 6 weeks.
Yeah.
I would have thought, if you'd come to me 2 months ago and gone, Kent, will you pay me $1,000 if I let you not have to be within 6 feet of another human being? I would have just I'd just be shelling out. I would have paid money for that. And I miss it.
Yeah.
It's just really odd. But I'm closer to my kids than I've ever been. The ones who talk to me. I have a great group of friends. You shifted.
Yeah, I had one camera go still.
Okay. I got on last Friday. I did a virtual happy hour with some of my buds from work, and we talked for 6 straight hours. So we never talked for 6 hours. We never talked for 1 hour.
Yeah.
And so I'm getting closer to some people in some ways that I didn't expect. And I'm like, the first few weeks I was dealing with the fair amount of depression. So spent a lot of time in a dark room. And then I'd come out like, okay, I can do it for another hour. And then I'd come out and act human for an hour. And then I'd go huddle up. But, you just can't do that forever. Number one. Number two, as a business, Gusto kind of didn't know, okay, everybody's working from home. Everything's up for grabs. We don't know how bad it's going to get. And about a week or a week and a half ago, we said, okay, here's the plan. Here's what business we think business is going to look like, and here's how we're going to respond to it. And I could buy into the decisions that were made, and I believed in the values that were behind those decisions. And some of the decisions people were upset about, but now I had a thing I could do. Oh, people are pissed off and frustrated. Excellent. Now I have a mission. Now I have a direction, a thing to do. and that's made a big difference for me. So my mood, my ratio of butt in seat versus huddled in a closet time has gone way up. Yeah. So like it's not gonna be great. I'm playing a lot of music. I'm doing a fair amount of art. So yeah, that's mine. How are your guys' doing? Yours is way more complicated because you got spouses, you got kids, you got.
You know what?
Yeah.
It's funny. Like a lot of the early jokes were, well, all these married couples that are going to either come out pregnant or divorced. Like that
Yeah.
was kind of the joke that everyone was kind of trading around with couples, and we're certainly not going to come out pregnant. We are done having kids, and so now it's. We were talking, Chris and I
Well,
were
then
talking,
you know.
yeah, now we know. And we were talking the other night, and it's like, you know what, we've just gotten along great. Like we're actually like I was traveling a lot. I was traveling way too much, and I've been home probably the most I've been home in the last 2 years, and we're just having a great time. Like it's, we're working with the kids on school. We're, Chris and I, we have a very nice garage gym that we've built out. So we're working out together. We're let's doing reconnect. It's actually been great. I do miss, like, I will jump in the Jeep and just go for a drive. Like I miss going somewhere. Like I don't necessarily want to go anywhere. I just want to go somewhere. Does that make sense?
I like it.
And so I don't know if that sentence is actually, that was some weird fortune cookie
No.
logic, but I miss like, I miss that. I also, and this is like total first world problem nonsense. I miss hitting purchase on Amazon and having it show up within a day or two. Like I really miss that. I miss like the logistics, this beautiful system we had set up that has just crumbled to where it's just, it reminds me of being a kid. Like my wife and I were talking this morning, like, remember when you were a kid and you would send off for something and in 4 to 6 weeks, it'll be back at your house. And that was amazing.
Yeah.
And you would never order out of a catalog because the shipping costs were too high and it would take too long, except at Christmas. And at Christmas, you would get that special catalog and you would circle all the stuff you wanted and write your name by it. That was the one time a box showed up at your house, right?
99-cent VHS club.
Yeah, it was amazing. And or encyclopedias would show up at your house. It was never anything really, like, except I read those. I loved the encyclopedia, but
Love paper encyclopedias.
love them. And it bums me out I don't have a set right now, but I loved reading those as a kid. But boxes never, but now we got used to like this idea of if I click it, I get it. And that's like the new mentality. I click it, I get it. And we're kind of back to, oh, I got to be a little patient. I got to use the things I have at home. I got to be a little more grateful for what shows up. And so that's been an interesting shift. And, but you know what? We're actually okay. Like everyone's healthy. I'm just glad, like, so far, Northwest Indiana has been kind of a bubble. Like we're not in too much of the trouble. And so, yeah, but there's just like the little things of having somewhere to go has really messed up my brain a little bit.
How about you, Todd?
So I feel like I could start with the first way that you put it, where if you were to ask me, that's like I would have been like, yeah, I'll take some time out. I think I missed two things. I don't like people telling me what to do, and so I really don't like anybody telling me I can't do what I could do right now. That's I had to be in quarantine. I had to be locked down. It makes me just feel like doing something, not doing it just because someone told me to do it. So I don't like that feeling constantly.
Okay.
I miss sports. Watching something on the background, hopefully we'll get that back. I miss just going and having a beer with buddies. Other than that, like, we're going to get through it. We're all healthy here. Hopefully everybody else that's listening here is healthy, and so are their families. But, if that's all I have to complain about in this kind of time, it's really not that bad, right?
Yeah.
I've gotten completely obsessed with things, certain particular things that have caused me sleepless nights. But that's kind of how I roll. So
You know what? It's funny. I had to honestly just turn off the news. Like I'm
100%.
still
100%.
and I'm still
Yeah.
getting sucked into some of it. And it mentally, it's just not healthy for me. Like I can't care what the president's doing. I can't worry about New York. I've got to stop looking at all this stuff and just, I've got it 90% turned off. And I got to just like totally like that last little quarter turn just has to happen to.
Yeah, I shut off Twitter on the weekends.
That's a good idea.
And that was my just drip feed of anxiety.
Yeah.
IV anxious. And so I just had to step away. Like I feel less connected, and I don't like feeling less connected, but I've got a bunch of other ways to be connected. So
it's interesting. So I was talking to a person that was in a PhD program for children's psychology, something like that. I'm not really great with all that terminology, but she was talking about how from 0 to 3-year-olds and how much they digest and learn from studying people's facial expressions. And her concern was what's going to happen to those kids, because 1 month is huge in their mental development. And they're still seeing and understanding their parents and their interactions, but not so much the other humans around them. But I even think then, like, is there going to be, how could that impact people like us? Like, we're going to go out and we're sitting here and we can kind of see each other's body language and those kinds of things. But like, I keep thinking like, it's going to be super weird when I go back out into the world, because I'm going to almost be like, don't touch me.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna have made this whole thing seem so awesome. I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna be totally disappointed in it, right? Like,
well, and anxious about it. Somebody coughs.
Yeah, I know. Or like they sneeze.
And you're just gonna look at him like, "Did you wait?
you just killed me.
How dare you?
I'm taking you out." Oh, my last poker session was awful that way. There's some guy with a handkerchief, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna kill you.
Someone just bust him so that he leaves. Come on.
Yes. Yeah, that would be perfect.
So, Kent, you're a poker fan. Have you been watching the Galfond challenge?
I was screaming. That was the most compelling television I have seen in years and years.
I cannot believe they did not put it on the Ocho. Like, how is it not on like ESPN 6 or something? Like, so Todd, I'll fill you in real quick. So Phil Galfond, arguably the most talented PLO, pot limit Omaha player on the planet. He's actually a very strong no limit hold'em player.
10 years ago. This is an important part of this story.
He's gotten married and moved on and doing other projects, but the Galfond challenge. So Run It Up Poker has set up this kind of, challenge Phil. And so they play like 100, 200 PLO. They play 50,000 hands. So they're multi-tabling, and he had this a wager with this other poker player. And basically I think it was 25 or 50,000. I don't remember which. I want to say 50,000 hands. At
25,000 hands.
Okay. And insane limits. And basically who comes out ahead, and then there's like these side bets, and there's all these like propositions and payoffs and all these outs. And so within, I don't know, 5,000-6,000 hands, Phil Galfond is down 900,000 pounds or 900,000 euros.
Euros, yeah.
Like, this is an impossible. It's a horrible shift in variance. It's a horrible run of cards. It's some bad playing. He's 900,000 euros in the hole.
But it's such a classic narrative, right? This is the old guard. You used to see these Disney movies. There'd be the old ram, and then the young ram tries to come, and they butt heads, and you're like, oh, who's gonna win? This is absolutely that narrative.
And it played out. So by the end of the match, Galfond was up. I mean, no,
it was close to the last 100 hands out of 25,000 hands.
Yep.
With 100 hands to go, they were back to even Steven. So he'd gone in this $1 million hole.
Insane.
He'd taken 2-3 weeks off because he just couldn't, he had to reset. And then he came back and he just comes roaring back. And then every day he's getting back a little further. And then, oh no, and then up and down and up. And then the last day, 100 hands left. They are even Steven. So it's whoever wins one big hand.
It's amazing. And so he ended up winning that challenge, which was just stupid. Like if you run the math, it just it's just crazy. So now he's playing Bill Perkins and apparently is doing well again. Had a few rough hands, but this guy is just mathematically should not be doing what he's doing, and is just, it's amazing. It's been compelling to watch. Yeah. So the Galfond challenge, if you all want to check it out on Twitter, it's a really they live stream it on Twitch. I mean, you can check it out. I don't think there's any fees to watch it. Just watch. You can watch Phil play on Twitch. It's some very high level poker. Especially if you're into Pot Limit Omaha, it's some very high level poker. Phil's been streaming, so he's actually talking about hands with about a 10 or 15 minute delay, something like that. If you're into that stuff, man, that 900,000 euro hole just, I was like, all right, he's blown it on the first challenge, and nope, came right back. It was crazy.
Yeah, that was last Sunday was the finale, the grand finale. Yeah. And it could have been scripted by Survivor or whatever. It could have been scripted by a reality TV show producer and not been any better.
Oh, totally fascinating to watch. So it's between that and Tiger King, right?
I have not watched 1 second of Tiger King, and I will not watch 1 second of it.
All right, there's a hot take here. What's going on, Kent?
I lived for 17 years in Southern Oregon. Like those, I know those people. I moved out for a reason, and I just don't need to go back.
So my wife and I did watch it after the kids were asleep. And of course, within like the first 3 episodes, there's one guy from Indiana who's involved in all of the nonsense. I'm just like, geez, man, way to keep it classy, Indiana. Here we go. But
nobody from Pennsylvania. So
yeah, Pennsylvania stayed clean this time.
Clean as a whistle in Tiger King. Dirty and all kinds of other things, I'm sure.
Okay, so here's something quarantine related. I have become allergic to drama.
Whoa.
I will start to watch some movie and there'll be some big chase scene at the beginning, and that's fine. And then, then they cut back to whatever the training sequence, and then the bad guy starts to show up and I just turn it off. Wow. Walk away. I cannot take any of that kind of mounting tension.
Interesting.
So
I'm watching so little TV. I'm like barely watching anything. It's weird. Wood turning on YouTube.
Yes, it's
awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
So there's a guy named, so this is going to get, the listeners are like, I thought they were going to talk about Agile.
Yeah, we did. We finished that.
We did that. Yeah. So there's a YouTube channel. There's a kid. I call him a kid. He's in his 20s. Alex Steele. And he does blacksmithing and knife making and sword making, like just brilliant stuff. Fixes like the 300-pound hammers that smash the he's like doing all this mechanical stuff. Alex Steele, an amazing YouTube channel you can just get sucked into. He does Damascus steel forging, builds some just amazing stuff. Like, he's just fascinating to watch. I've gotten sucked into that channel quite a bit recently.
Okay, I have a friend who has a channel. I'm gonna see if I can find it.
There's something really therapeutic about that, because I found myself watching those, like sometimes like it'll be like a backyard makeover and they play them in like really fast motion.
Yeah.
Like stuff like that. It's like therapeutic just to watch it. I watch it just because I want to see what it looks like in the end.
Have you discovered ASMR?
Yeah. Yep.
So where are the ASMR programming videos? So I published a TCR. Have you seen TCR, the test commit revert?
No. What am I missing?
You've got me already. I'm already. See, I'm tapped out Googling ASMR right now. Okay? So I'm coming back.
Test, commit, revert. Okay.
Test, commit, revert. So it's like TDD, except you run the tests, and if they pass, you commit automatically. And if they fail, you revert to the last commit.
Oh. Okay.
So if you screw something up, the code just disappears. Poof.
That just seems smarter.
And if you put, okay, so I don't know about smarter. It's really interesting. It creates this intense incentive to work in tiny, tiny steps.
Oh yeah.
Because you don't want stuff to poof disappear. So I put up a video of me TCRing in Python, TCRing there's rope data structure, strings with constant time, insert and delete.
Yep.
And when I was finished, I thought, I definitely missed a beat here. I should have made this an ASMR video just with the tap, tap, tap of the keys. And then if I whispered, and you could just watch the code come into life and the refactorings happen.
Oh, it just compiled.
And please don't do that with that thing behind you. You're making me scared. It's come to life.
You know what you need? You need one of those like late 90s, like the IBM keyboards with the great springs in them.
Clicky clacky, yeah.
Click, that
Oh, did you guys ever work around a person like that really would like pound on it and type really fast?
Oh.
And you just couldn't concentrate?
You can actually buy those keyboards today. There's sites dedicated to.
Oh yeah.
It's like, it's not pneumatic, it's not hydraulic. There's some word for it.
Mechanical keyboards.
Okay, thank you. Mechanical keyboards. Todd, this is like a market. Like there's some high-end stuff you can buy.
Do you know how people have that like obsession when they hear somebody take a bite of food? Like I have that problem. It like sets something off. It's like a disease.
ASMR.
No, it's like I have a thing when I hear a super loud typer. Like it just to me is completely unnecessary. It's not like eloquent. Like and so to be honest with you, my wife is a very loud typer, and we've had run-ins about it. I'm like, could you please stop typing so loud? You're beating that poor keyboard that creates magic. Like,
what'd that keyboard ever do to you?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So I definitely want to try an ASMR version and just see, like, who knows?
It would be funny to test it with like 100 programmers and see if it makes their heart rates go up hearing the keys click.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wait, did they test first? Wait, did that compile? Wait, what?
So Todd, you haven't run into ASMR before? It's this really, truly weird effect. And it doesn't work on everybody, but it does work on some people, where if you hear whispering or like some kinds of repetitive motion, you get this tingling sensation in the back, like your skull and the back of your head, and it's very relaxing. So it might be scissors clacking. And so there's a million videos of someone pretending to cut your hair or just talking like this.
Weird.
And being very quiet. And people will watch for hours.
Really?
So we need to invent the ASMR mob programming. Let's put it all together, boys. ASMR mob programming, TCR video. Poof. Go viral.
I could probably watch that. I mean, if you get that would be something like where you get feedback that all the tests pass, right? Like,
it's just
it's like in slow motion.
Yeah.
And then just go over and over again. And you can make a small change and like watch it, and then okay. So I'm into now. I know what ASMR is.
It's just rain for hours. Isn't this great?
I don't think so. I think that would drive me crazy.
But it's all sorts of different sounds. Like they'll play with like paint brushes, and they'll play. Oh, it's nuts. Like
crinkling paper.
Yeah. It's
different things work on different people.
Some of it's really relaxing.
So the there's this Welsh stone sculptor, and you just hear this tap, 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 tap. It's very rhythmic, very quiet. And then he speaks in this quiet Welsh accent, which I'm not going to pretend to do because I don't want to piss off the entire of Wales, but it's just tap, 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 tap. And you really can just listen to that forever.
I like it.
Good stuff.
So
Niels Provost is my my friend who does. He's a very high level programmer, but he's a blacksmith. That's his hobby, and he's got a blacksmith shop in some tilt up in San Jose, and he makes these amazing Viking swords and spears, and you can watch. It's another one of these, like the wood turning. You just watch for hours. And and the thing, and then fold it over and get it hot and pull it out and and sparks are flying, and yeah,
there's just something satisfying about that. It's like, it's what we're to me. I just think there's some wiring in us that we're supposed to do stuff like that. There's supposed to be something that we create that's actually, like, ones and zeros are great, but man, there's something we're supposed to actually put into the world,
Yeah, I really enjoy. So as I've mentioned, I've done a bunch of art. Let me change my background.
Okay.
To
that means you're free to whisper then, because it won't scare me anymore.
Okay, good. So I'll do stuff like this at a large scale, like 20 by 30 inches.
Oh,
It's
wow.
just full of these patterns and doodles, and by the time it's all filled in, it's pretty complicated. But I'll get in the zone with one of these where I'll see some pattern in my mind. I'll grab a pen. I have lots and lots of pens. And then I'll just make that pattern until I'm done with it. I don't know how I know I'm done. And then I'll see something else in my mind, and I'll grab the next color and the blah, blah, blah. And I can just do that for hours. So that's a very calming thing for me.
Nice. We just lift weights.
Lifting weights is good too.
Today I called Todd, and I'm just like, I am all wound up over. I made a mistake. I read some news. I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to go deadlift until I don't care anymore. And then finally my legs were like, dude, you don't care. Stop lifting.
Well, yeah, there's no doubt that I'm coming out of this thing like a meathead. Because I have like a shed on the side of my house, and I have a home gym in there. It's like I go in there and like listen to podcasts, and sometimes I don't work out. I just sit there. Live on YouTube. I'm just kidding.
It's like, and now Todd's caught.
Yeah.
Well, guys, I'll tell you what, we've kind of hit the time box.
All right.
Yeah.
So we are empty, but Kent, it's always good catching up with you. I'm glad.
Great to catch up with you. Well, that was weird.
Yeah.
Whoa. And he's a wizard.
I always knew something was off. Making glasses disappear.
That's right. I don't show up in Zoom videos or mirrors.
Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Well, no, thanks for joining us. We know you're always up to something, and so carving out almost an hour and a half for us is always appreciated. Anything you want to push or promote? Anything that because I am going to drop this into the Agile for Humans feed that'll go out to tens of thousands of listeners, and there's anything that you want to
yes push? So I just dropped this TCR video, the first 20 minutes. It's 80 minutes of development, and then I have a series of videos with Kelly Sutton called Test Desiderata. So these are 12 short videos, 5-minute videos about the desirable properties of tests. What I observed is that people will write tests that don't really work very well, but they'll think, oh, I'm stuck. What else can I possibly do? And the fact is there's a huge space of possible ways to write tests. And if you only know one tiny point in that space, you're really missing out. So this is like 12 different sliders that you can move, some of which work together, some of which work in opposition. So I think those videos are a way, if you kind of want to take a philosophical look at software testing, that's a way of thinking about what else could I possibly do. So that's a couple pieces of content that I have out there.
Cool.
We could probably add that. We can add that to the description of this video.
I'll throw those in the show notes that go up.
All right.
Of course, like, whenever I hire software engineers, they always get a copy of XP Explained.
Thank you.
Of course, you got to push the book.
I appreciate the $1.12.
Hey, I mean, we still read it. Like it's one that should be read, and always happy to buy it for new hires. And it's interesting it's about 50-50. Some of them will say, oh, I've already got this, I love it. And half of them will say, okay, I can't wait to learn. And so it's been a fun mix, but those two videos, we'll put XP Explained in the show notes, because I think if you are in the software industry, it's a must read, right? You got to read this one.
And I still get this sometimes. I don't understand writing a test first, and then someone does it, and then they can refactor their stuff and it's safe. And they're just like,
Yep. Yeah, no, I don't bother trying to convince people. Yeah. I just say, after you've done it, we can have this conversation.
Yeah, it's a truth.
Well, I'll tell you what, guys, it's always great to get together. Off Square Brewing, your long day IPA is phenomenal. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Man, I might have another one after this show just to call it a night. So Off Square Brewing hit. How did you guys do with yours?
Awesome. Treehouse never disappoints.
Wow. Yeah.
It's there.
There it is.
There we go. 4-point KSA. Good stuff.
Nice. Well, all right, guys, until next time, Craft Brewed Agile, thanks for doing this. And all right, let's call it.
All right.
Thanks everybody for